Hi guys, welcome back to the Toffee Blues and welcome to another Everton live show. We haven't done one of these for a couple of weeks. We are joined by Jordan. I was actually looking over the Skype chat of myself and Jordan because usually we just talk on Twitter at the last time we done one of these, and the last time me and Jordan sat down was actually before the Merseyside derby when Everton were 4 wins out of 4 and everything was dead boss. We were winning every week, it was dead smooth and life was great. A little bit of a different vibe now. Only won once since we sat down to talk about the Merseyside derby, but we're not here to talk specifically about Everton's form. We're going to talk about Nkounkou and Anthony Gordon today, specifically should they be playing more, ultimately why they aren't playing more, and whether it's time for both players, more so Anthony Gordon, to maybe take a step out on loan for a season and go and play football elsewhere, because I certainly think, look, if he's not even getting in the first team squad, if he's not even making the bench of a match day, then I really don't see the point in him playing in the under-23s, because he's far too good and he's not going to grow or develop there, so he may as well go out on loan and go and play maybe in Germany or I don't know, Italy or somewhere like that and go and get some experience, or even in England in the Championship and get some experience. We'll talk obviously about Nkounkou as well, because I think it was a big shock last Saturday when we come up against Leeds that Nkounkou wasn't in the side. I've got a bit to say about that, and then we are going to go into talking about VAR. Actually done a video 12 months ago, Jordan, tweeted it out this afternoon, have you seen it? But it was in November 2019, and I've done a video on VAR and how, you know, the officials are making mistakes and they're sitting behind the cloud of VAR, because realistically it's those officials sitting behind the telly that are making the decision. And I literally just watched the first 2 minutes of it back today and thought nothing's changed. We're over a year later and we're still having the same issues. The one in the game yesterday between West Ham and Aston Villa was utterly atrocious. How somebody can be classed offside when he's being ragged near enough to the floor is beyond me. But we'll go into talking about all of that. But before we get into it, how are you, mate? How's things? How's life? Know you recently got yourself a little PS5. Mine's actually come today. I don't know if you can see the box there behind me, so I'm dead eager to play it. But how's things overall?
Yeah, non-football wise, everything's good, mate. Got a new job and enjoying it, really enjoying it. And of course, been playing my PS5 non-stop, so all good, mate. How are you?
He's right. Yeah, I'm
Eager
sound.
season.
Yeah, I'm sound, mate. Like I said, I'm eager. I managed to stupidly. Here's me thinking when the pre-orders come out, massively off topic by the way, but I'm going to say it anyway. When the pre-orders come out, that you had to pay the £500. Then it wasn't until the day before launch that someone said to me, "Nah, you know, you could have just waited and they take the money out a week before." And I was like, "Are you messing? Are you absolutely?" So I was like there 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Managed to get one. It's arrived today. But yeah, happy days. But before we go into talking about Gordon and Nkounkou then specifically, we'll talk a little bit about Everton's form, because it was the Merseyside derby that we last sit down and we talked about Everton, and it was very positive and there was a lot of enthusiasm, and maybe there was an expectation there from every Evertonian that shouldn't have really been there. But things haven't been great since then. We've had one win, I think, in 5 games since then. Obviously the derby was a draw. We've lost 4: Man United, Southampton, Leeds and Newcastle. I done a stream on Monday, the Leeds review, and we spoke about how there has been a few Evertonians, not an awful lot, but a few Evertonians who are questioning Ancelotti at this point. And whilst I think it's understandable and it's fair to question some of the decisions and some of the tactics, it just seems so premature for me to even question him being the manager at Everton Football Club. It hasn't been great recently, has it? Do you put that down to anything specifically, or do you just think maybe earlier on in the season we had too high of a hope and this has been the reality of what a first process building season is?
Well, whether Ancelotti is your manager or Marco Silva's your manager, 4 losses out of 5. Is that what it is? Isn't
Recently it is, yeah, isn't it? Because
yeah.
lost 3 on the bounce, beat Fulham, and lost last weekend.
Yeah, so it's not great, is it? I mean, understandably, yeah, you can question Carlo. Obviously, he's not going to get everything right. However, saying, well, if people are saying like sack him or whatever, I haven't seen many of it personally, but I've heard people saying, "Oh, I can't believe I'm seeing people saying Carlo out and all that." No, because I don't want to start again. It's just, no way. And if we don't win nothing with this fella, we never will.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. That's the way I see it. However, he has got a few things wrong in the past few weeks. I think we all knew that Newcastle game, that the formation he was going to play and the team he put out just weren't right. So I know people can say like, "Oh, Carlo knows better than everyone," but we as fans watch them every week as well. I mean, we've got to have opinions ourselves. I mean, I think all the fans were actually proved right that was the wrong team against Newcastle. So, I don't know what it's down to. Injuries obviously haven't helped. But last week there was it really Luke saying that we had the right back out, didn't we? But um, I don't think this formation the last 2 games has helped us. I've never been a fan of whatever you want to call it, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of it. Ronald Koeman done it a few times, and it just I won't say it never works because obviously we'd be Fulham with it, but we weren't great that game in my opinion. Apart from a little spell of 20, 25 minutes in the first half, it just never works for me. I don't like playing wing backs, especially like I know we had a good game of Wolby right wing back, but I don't want to see attacking players play there. I don't know. I just don't like the formation, so I think he's got that wrong, especially last week when he switched the Wolby to the other side. But injuries haven't helped either. Yeah. Can't quite put my finger on why we're fully losing, but there's some of the reasons I feel.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. And there has been a lot of formation changes, certainly recently. One thing that I think Carlo got wrong as well on Saturday, was that, we started with that 5 at the back, and there must have been about 8 different players throughout the game that played fullback. Tom Davies and Iwobi started, Delph come off the bench, Decore went fullback at one point, Godfrey was there at one point. So constantly chopping and changing the side and moving players about isn't going to help in terms of consistency. But I still think Carlo Ancelotti is trying to find his best 11, and not only the best 11 but the best positions for those players. Carlo knows that James Rodriguez is an absolutely fantastic, fabulous footballer, and he's brilliant and he'll create an awful lot of opportunities, but you could probably utilise him more if you moved them centre and then had a natural right winger out wide with pace, a bit like Richarlison, who gets down and can feed off James's balls, but we haven't got that at the moment. So James is there, and then you go 5 at the back to try and shore it up a little bit. For me, and it's one thing I want to bring up when talking about Niles Nkounkou and Anthony Gordon. For me, if you play a 3 at the back formation or a 5 at the back, I'm like you, mate. I don't really like it whatsoever. But you have to have fantastic attacking fullbacks, and it worked against Fulham because Luca Dean put in one of the best performances he's ever put in an Everton shirt. He had 2 assists. He was fantastic. Sorry, mate?
I just got to say, he got 2 assists, didn't he?
Got 2 assists. He was absolutely brilliant. And Iwobi on the other side, done well. He was feeding off that confidence. He was getting forward. He was throwing the ball into the box. He didn't get any assists, but he was doing well. Like you've mentioned then, Iwobi can't play on the left-hand side. Whether you like it or not, the lad cannot play on the left. Whether he's playing left back, left wing back, left midfield, left in the changes, he can't play on the left. He's much better on the right, and that showed against Fulham and it showed against Leeds. But I just honestly think if you're going to play with 3 at the back or a 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it, you have to have natural attacking fullback who can also defend. Now, I think Tom Davies done okay, to be honest, against Leeds. I thought he got forward a couple of times. He put that ball in for Decore, which, let's be honest, he should have scored. And defensively, he held his own. Iwobi on the other end was a bit of a shambles, but he didn't massively do anything that you sort of think, oh my god, he's had an awful game. But they just weren't good enough to utilise that type of formation, so we were left just constantly being put under pressure and having a formation that realistically should have been, right, okay, we soak up the pressure, and then you two at wing back bomb forward and create chances, and we just didn't get that. We were just soaking up the pressure with 5 defenders at the back instead, and ultimately, we were always, for me, going to concede the goal in that game, and once we did, we just didn't have enough going forward, or enough energy or enough intensity to get back into the game. So I do think Carlo got it wrong there, and you're spot on. You can absolutely criticise Carlo Ancelotti when he gets things wrong. I think he's got a couple of things wrong over recent weeks. The Newcastle game was a big one for me. I still can't tell you now to this day the formation that we tried to play and the players in which positions that we tried to play didn't make any sense, but I do think he's still feeling out the team and trying to feel out his best 11 and the best positions for certain players. It would have seemed before the Merseyside derby that Carlo Ancelotti had his best 11. Pickford in goal, Dean left back, Coleman right back, Mina and Keane centre half, Alan Decore and Gomez in the middle, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin and James Rodriguez. But since that game, we've had a significant injury to Seamus Coleman. We've had a significant injury to Luca Dean. We've since found out that extra man in midfield, be it Andre Gomez or Gylfi Sigurdsson, aren't very good, and when everybody else is having a little bit of a shaky game, they get massively exposed. Alan, for me, has been out of fitness recently. He was fantastic against Leeds, but prior to that, he's been out of fitness. Decore has been good, but can do better. Obviously, we had the suspension to Richarlison, injuries to James Rodriguez, so we've had a lot of things go wrong with the squad, and again, it's easy to sit here, isn't it, Jordan, and say, well, James is in the team and Richarlison in the team, like the Fulham game, for example, so we should be at full strength. James and Richarlison played against Fulham 24, 48 hours after landing back in the country from playing international games. They were never going to be able to play 90 minutes consistently at a tough level. So
don't blame him for bringing them off, by the way, in that game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't either as well. I think James absolutely need. In fact, I think James should have probably come off 5 or 10 minutes before he did, to be honest with you, because he wasn't doing much going forward, and defensively he wasn't doing enough. So there's issues, and you absolutely can sit there and blame the manager and blame the tactics, but again, I do think the start of the season maybe led us into this false sense of security, which I fell for it. I'm not going to lie, I fell for it. I was sitting there finding myself fuming after the Southampton game, and then thinking, well, hang on, we've won 4, we're in a Carabao Cup quarter-final, we've lost to a side that, let's be honest, they're a decent team, Southampton. They're not the worst team in the league, they're a decent side. Should we really be absolutely livid? But you find yourself, don't you, when you're winning games of football and when you beat Spurs away, just falling into that what if we're just going to go and beat everyone this season. And then when reality hits, it hits hard. And the reality of this situation is it's a season that we were always going to have to build in. It's a process. Carlo Ancelotti's come to Everton Football Club, and if you'd have asked myself, Jordan, John, or anybody, Terry, James, anybody to do with the channel, or any other Everton fan channel, or any other Everton fan for that sake, if you'd have asked them 12 months ago when Carlo Ancelotti was employed, do you think you'd be challenging for the league in 12 months? I think we'd all have laughed and turned around and said, see you later, mate. The fact that the conversation of challenging for the Champions League place was there at the start of the season shows how far we'd came. Yeah, we've had a couple of defeats. Yes, it's not been great. Yes, there's issues to be talked about, but it will get better. We will sign better players. We will, Carlo Ancelotti's had one transfer market. Forget January last season. Forget it. It's a nonsense.
It's just one. It's one.
It is, but forget it this season as well. And this is what I can see happening, because I can see people going, oh, we need him in January, we desperately need him in January. Don't expect much from January. Look at the January transfer windows that Everton have had in previous years. We spent 50 million on Walcott and Tossen. I really like Walcott, I think he's a decent bloke. Has he been £30 million worth? Not a chance. Has Cenk Tosun? Not a chance. You don't get good value for money in January unless you spend ridiculous amounts of money, because teams know you're desperate. So knock January. I'm not saying we won't sign anyone in January, but knock January's expectations on the head. Think about the summer. We signed James Rodriguez, who has been a revelation to the football club on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of attention. You only have to say a bad word about him, and there's about 700 million Colombians saying, oh, you can't say that. We've signed Decore, who will get better and has improved the team. Alan, who's come in and improved the team. So ultimately, we've improved since last season. Have we still got a lot to do? Yes, of course we have. Is Carlo Ancelotti the right manager? Exactly like George said, if Carlo's not, then I think we pack our bags and sort of say, you know what, I think darts or something is probably best to watch, because if Carlo Ancelotti, 3-time Champions League winning manager, can't do it with Everton, then who can? And Carlo, let's be very careful with Carlo. He's turned around and said, I want to stay here, pass me contract. I want to be here for... If you ask Carlo Ancelotti about the city of Liverpool, he'll talk to you about Crosby for about 400 minutes, because he loves Crosby that much. He loves the place, he loves the city, he loves the fans. We've got a manager who's very dedicated to the cause, and ultimately, let's see where we are in 12, 18 months or so. If we still haven't vastly improved, then we can have that conversation. But I hate this mentality, Jord, of lose 4 games and then, well, right, we need to start again. I just think it's utter nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't just think like that. I mean, like you said, he's had one window. I mean, it's a process, isn't it? I mean, like, there's no way at the start of the season that I thought we'd be even top 4. I thought, if we get into the top 6, that'll be get into Europe. That's our goal. I mean, because we've lost a few games and, like you said, injuries have hit and all that, you can't just rip it all up and start again.
Yeah.
Especially, give him time. We've tried and tested all types of managers, and now we've got the proven one. It's not even entering my mind that he's not the right man, because I know he is. Yeah. But you just got to give him time. It's a first month. You would never have even seen anyone say he's not the right man. And now, because it's the second month and we've lost a few games, it doesn't work like that.
No, spot on. And listen, we're bound to be frustrated when we lose games of football and Newcastle. But I've sat back since then, since the Leeds defeat, and I've thought, right, okay, who have we lost to? We've lost to Southampton. Decent side. Yeah, on paper and historically we should be beating them, but let's be honest, football doesn't work historically or on paper. They're a decent side, they play good football, they were very quick, they absolutely battered us last season in the during the lockdown period, during the fixtures towards the back end of the season. We've lost to Newcastle, you can't really say anything about that, we should have been winning that game. We lost to Man United, again another team that'll be in and around there come the end of the season, whether they were on bad form at that time or not. They've got good quality players and they will be in and around there at the end of the season. And we've lost to Leeds, who are again a very attacking team who we just didn't hurt enough defensively. So it's not the end of the world, and you do get frustrated at the end of games when you lose, because your instant impact, your instant reaction is, oh my god, we've lost another game, it's not good enough. Go and watch my instant match reaction from Saturday, and you'll probably be sitting there thinking, is this the same lad? Because I was fuming, I was furious, I was gutted, we should have won, we should have hurt them a lot more. But it literally took me about 2 hours on Sunday to sit down. It was Owen Parks, who contributes on the channel, of course, really good lad. Owen got his head screwed on, who literally, I think he tweeted that after it, let's be honest, this is a process. We were never going to win every game. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves now. And then you sit back an hour or two after the game and you think, yeah, you know what? It happens. We lost to the better side today. We lost to a side that wanted it more. Is there issues there? Yeah. We'll fix them as we go along.
When you look at it though, mate, I think it's one of them seasons without the fans. There's going to be results like this all the time. Look at was it last night?
Leicester.
Fulham beat
2-0.
It's going to happen, mate. I mean, personally, people might think I'm talking crap here, but if the fans were in the ground, I think we probably would have beat Man United, because we would have all been up for it. We were all excited to get back after having a good start. I thought we would have beat them.
Yeah.
But with no fans in the crowd, it takes a lot of disadvantage away when you're at home.
Yeah.
It's just like another game for the players, really.
Spot on.
I mean, they're only looking at blue seats. There's no atmosphere or nothing.
Yeah, spot
on. And we turn over and put that crowd noise off, it's dead.
Yeah.
I always try and watch it with the crowd noise now, because when you watch it without that crowd noise, mate, it's just them players and nothing else.
Spot on. It's like a training session, and again, you're absolutely spot on. This is going to be a mad season, and a season where we might be sitting in at the end of it thinking, oh, if only we'd have beat Newcastle, if only we'd have beat Leeds, if only we'd have beat Southampton. But that's going to be like that for everybody, like George said. Fulham, who it's a side that looked like they couldn't buy points, turned up against Leicester, who were this top 4 challenging side, could even win the league and beat them quite comfortably. In a game that they play very, very well in. They played very well against us last week. We've seen West Ham, who one week get absolutely bladdered and the next week turn up and beat sides comfortably. It's a very, very open season, and I honestly can't tell you who I think is going to win it, because I can see pretty much every side being beaten, and every side has been beaten so far this season, so it shows that there isn't one team that are going to massively run away with it. And that shows that, look, Terry's in the live comments. We'll get in the live comments in a moment. Terry's in the live comments, says, good evening, gents. We're a quarter of the way through the season. It's December. 5 points off top and in the quarters of the cup. I think people need to chill out. Exactly. And it's a very, very close season. Look, ultimately, if we go on another run of 3 or 4 wins, we're right back up there. And you're not even talking about this period. So everyone does need to chill out. And ultimately, I think everybody has now, when they've got to that point where a couple of days after the game, they've gone, actually, let's be honest, it's not the end of the world. One decision that Carlo Ancelotti has made over the last couple of weeks or so that I think he does want criticism for, and he has had a lot of criticism for, is the lack of game time for Niles Nkounkou, and specifically Anthony Gordon. Niles Nkounkou is a different situation for me than Gordon, because there's only really been one game that you could have made an argument that he absolutely should have started in, and that was the Leeds game, because obviously Luca Dean was injured. He was the natural left-back replacement. He played in the Premier League. Okay, he hasn't got a lot of experience, but again, I said it after the game, if Niles Nkounkou is fit and isn't injured, I don't understand why he wasn't playing. Not because he's a natural left-back replacement for Luca Dean, not even that. Not because, you know, we had to shoe on somebody else at left back, but because if you're playing a 5 at the back formation with wing backs, he would be pretty much the perfect lad to put in. He's young, he's inexperienced, okay, yes, but he's got raw talent, he's got raw passion, and he would get forward. He would provide the closest to what Luca Dean would provide that we had. Now, whether he was injured or not, we don't know, because Carlo hasn't come out and said anything, he hasn't been asked about it. But again, that was another situation that sort of sparked the Anthony Gordon feelings again. And the Anthony Gordon one was, you know, Richarlison picked up a suspension against Liverpool, and we all sort of felt, right, okay, this is the chance for Anthony Gordon to break into this team, to show us what he's about, to get his opportunity. And I think within those 3 games that Richarlison didn't feature, I think Anthony Gordon wasn't even in the matchday squad for 2 of them, at least 1 of them, and he maybe played 5 or 10 minutes off the bench in 1 of them. He didn't play whatsoever. It was Iwobi, it was Sigurdsson, it was Bernard, it was these players that we'd constantly seen being given a chance before, who hadn't done much with the chance they'd been given, and were getting more and more opportunities. And this frustrated a lot of Evertonians. I done a video on this, and I said maybe Carlo's protecting Anthony Gordon, maybe he doesn't want to throw him in at a time when he knows there's a lot of pressure on him, and maybe we'll see him in a time when there's not much pressure. But then he wasn't on the bench on Saturday against Leeds. He wasn't on the. He didn't feature last week against Fulham either. Nkounkou wasn't in the squad against Leeds. What do you think? What do you think's going on there, Joe? I personally, I just think that maybe a lack of trust there for the younger players, and that if that's the case, that's fine. If he doesn't think they're experienced enough to play, that's fine. If he wants to save them from any unwarranted criticism, that's fine. But surely then the natural progression for somebody like a Gordon, not too much in Nkounkou because he was brought in to play in the under-23s, let's remember, but certainly a Gordon, he's got to go out on loan, and he can't be playing in the under-23s. But why do you think he hasn't been involved?
Well, there's a rumour going around, wasn't there? I don't know how true it is, but they asked him to go on loan and he said no because he wants to fight for his place. I don't know if that's true. It's just something I read on social media. But if that is the case, then that's maybe Carlo being a bit, don't know if the word stubborn is right with him, but as if to say, I'm the boss and you should have went. Yeah. But I don't know what it is, mate, because you look at the last 5 games, apart from Fulham, which we've won, these players who he's playing aren't doing it for him anyway. I'm not saying Anthony Gordon's going to come in and do it, but the way I look at it, if we're getting beat 1-0 or 1-1 and we're going to go for the win or try and get a goal, I don't want Andy Gomez coming off the bench. I want Anthony Gordon coming off the bench. Even the likes of Iwobi coming off the bench. I just think Anthony Gordon, he gives us something a little bit different. He's probably a more direct replacement for Richarlison because he's you know, he'll just bomb forward, he'll take players on, he's got pace. Pace is a lot of things in this Premier League, and I can't get my head around it. I definitely give him a go now because I don't really know what else he's got to lose by if he's going to play these players again, they're constantly letting them down.
Definitely.
And when I moved to Niles and Nkounkou, the only thing I can think of is that he must have been injured because it just makes perfect sense to put him there. He's already played against was it West Ham in the Premier League?
He played against West Ham in the Cup. He played against Newcastle in the Premier.
Yeah. So, to be honest though, is he injured because they asked him in the press conference. He went, Iwobi can play there, and I just went, oh my God, he's going to do it. Yeah. So, it was just a bit of a strange one. I mean, why didn't he say Nkounkou was injured then?
Yeah. And
so...
Yeah, it is. It's a mad one, isn't it? Because he also said in that press conference, I've got a good full-back replacement in Nkounkou, who's young and he's got a little bit of experience. And then it was sort of like, well, you've just said that Iwobi can play there, which I think we all just sort of felt at that point, right? That's okay, that's it. Iwobi's playing there. But then you haven't gone out and said, Nkounkou's still very young, I haven't made that decision yet, let's wait on him. You've said, we've got a good replacement there in Nkounkou. So I don't know why you'd really say that, and then unless you're just saying that and then putting your arm around him in the dressing room and saying, look, you're still quite inexperienced. It's a difficult one, and ultimately he does warrant criticism for it because it's not like Iwobi or Bernard or, this is talking about Gordon, by the way, Iwobi or Bernard or Sigurdsson have come in and made a massive impact and you know, brought what Richarlison doesn't. I think it's mad, isn't it, as fans, because Anthony Gordon is the player that everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to see succeed. Everybody wants it to go well for him. He's a young, local lad grown up at the football club, being in the academy, Everton supporter, boss on social media with the tweets and that. He's just what we all hoped we would be growing up, playing for Everton, living our dream, and like just loving it, absolutely loving it. And he's a very dedicated young player as well. Again, during the lockdown, he was one of only a couple of players. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was one as well, who you saw hiring private PTs and allowing himself to go out and improve and constantly improve on his cardio and his strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So it's one that does warrant criticism for me from Carlo, but it's a very, very strange one, because then you've got the counter argument, which is, well, Carlo Ancelotti watches these players every single day, so I understand that we might want to see an Anthony Gordon, because we know he's got a lot of raw talent and he's got a lot of raw ambition, but Carlo watches Gordon and Nkounkou every single day. He also watches Iwobi and Sigurdsson every single day. It's, again...
We've had to watch Everton and Gomez for about 2 years doing nothing, mate, so...
That's it. That's the difficulty, isn't it? That's the eye.
I'm not saying I'm more than Carlo or anything like that, but... Come on, it's like the game, we could all see it.
Yeah.
We can see it now. He needs to get a game, and that's the end of it, in my opinion.
No, it is, and it's a weird one, because it seems like the more and more that you sit there before a game saying, right, Gordon's got to be in now, the less and less likely he's to be in. It's like, right, we've got a full stem squad, Gordon makes the bench, might come on for 10 minutes, right, Richarlison's out, Iwobi's out, Sigurdsson's out, Calvert-Lewin's out, Gordon must get his chance. No, Delph plays on the left, and Dean plays up front, and Gordon isn't even in the squad. It's like the more and more likely that you think before a game he's going to get his chance, the less likely he is to get his chance, which is quite strange, but maybe, just maybe, there is that little bit of Carlo thinking, right, okay, there's a lot of eyes on him now, there's a lot of pressure, I don't want to throw him in there. But again, you have to throw him in there, because ultimately he's not going to learn otherwise. Sometimes you have to be thrown in at the deep end. And if Carlo Ancelotti come out and said, look, he's not experienced enough, I watch him every day in training, I don't think he can come on and make the impact that you all might think he would, sound, get him out on loan, go and let him play in Germany, go and let him play in the Championship. Don't put him in the under-23s. We saw him against Chelsea in the under-23s, and he was shit hot. He just pissed it. He was brilliant. And that's because he's much higher than that level. Is he Premier League level? Yeah. We don't know. It's yet to be seen. He hasn't been given enough opportunity, but he is higher than under-23 level. Maybe a loan deal is what's needed. And maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Joe. Maybe Anthony Gordon said to Carlo, no, I want to fight for my place, thinking that he'd be fighting for his place and he'd get more of an opportunity. Whereas Carlo was saying, I think you need to go out on loan, because Carlo deep down thought, you're not going to be in the plans an awful lot, because there's other players that I want to put there first. Another thing I want to throw to you, mate, is this whole situation regarding needing to sell players and needing to move on. Everton spent a lot of money in the transfer window. Let's be honest, we spent 20 million on Alan, 25 million on Alan, 20 million on Abdoulaye Doucouré. James coming in a free, but will be on quite a significant wage, I would assume. 20 odd million on Godfrey. And there's a lot of players in this Everton squad that we'd agree, and everybody else would agree, are deadwood. Let's be honest, and need to be sold. Now, you might put Sigurdsson in that category, you might put Bernard in that category, you might put Balassi, even though I like him as a lad, let's be honest, you might put Besic in that category, Tosin in that category, Walcott. Do you think that... I've read this a couple of times, and I do sort of listen to... I hear about it, and I think, you know what, maybe that is the reason, but then every bloody bit of red blood cell, every bit of fibre in me doesn't want it to be the reason, because it doesn't help the club progress. But do you think maybe Carlo's thinking, you know what, I'm going to have Tosin on the bench, I'm going to get certain players involved more than others, because I know in 18 months time, 12 months time, Anthony Gordon will still be there, he'll be ready to come in the Premier League, he'll have trained, he'll be shit hot, he'll maybe have gone out on loan, he'll be brilliant. Whereas I know that if Cenk Tosin is playing in the under-23s or not playing at all, nobody's going to come in and bid for him in the summer. And we still have quite a lot of these fringe players, deadwood players, that aren't out of contract this summer. Some of them are in contract till 2022, 2023 and beyond. So do you sort of see that as maybe a feasible, a reason that maybe Carlo's thinking about? I don't want it to be, because I think that, again, is more of the business side of football and doesn't really help the club progress, or doesn't really help fans see what they want to see. But is that something that you think could be a possibility? That, because let's be honest, I don't know why Cenk Tosin is on the bench for Everton. And I know he's a goal scorer, and he come in for a lot of money and this, that, the other. But the lad was nowhere near the squad for 12 months, went out on loan at Palace, got a big injury, stopped. Well, he didn't stop, but a 20 odd million pound move was stopped for him because of that injury. Is it now maybe a case of Brands and Carlo having a little word saying, listen, we need to get these players in the shop window, otherwise we're not going to be able to vastly improve the squad because we've still got them on big money and ultimately on a big fee?
It's a good point. I don't know. Look, every side of things in football, the way a club is run, is thought out. And Brands maybe have thought of that with Carlo, and that is a very good point. But did he really think this when we were top of the league? Did he really think, let's just throw it all away and just put these players in there and just try and sell them, even though it's
yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? It's a wild conspiracy, but
well, if he wants to sell Cenk Tosun, then why don't you just bring him on Saturday and try and get him to get a goal, and someone will go, oh, Cenk Tosun scored, should we bid for him in January?
True.
Just didn't make any sense bringing Gomez or Bernard on for me when there's a striker on the bench and we're 1-0 down. So that was the time to throw him on, in my opinion, if you want to sell him in the shop window.
Yeah.
If you can nick a goal, it's going to get people's attention. So I don't know. Like you said, I don't know why he's on the bench if it's not for that. If it's not for the reason you're saying, but then again, he should have brought him on if it is for that reason. So I don't know. It's just a weird one, isn't it? He just mustn't think Anthony Gordon is ready.
Yeah.
That's only the way I can see it, because he'd be on there. But why did he throw him in the derby last year?
Yeah, that's it. And Faz says in the comments, we'll get in the comments in a minute, he says, why concentrate on business at the detriment of results though, Cam? Doesn't make sense. Well, maybe Carlo's looking at Anthony Gordon in training thinking, I can't completely trust that he'll come on and change the game. We think it because Anthony Gordon will put on an Everton shirt of a Saturday and he'll go out and give it 110% and he'll give his bollocks. And I'm not saying that he doesn't work hard in training or that he doesn't impress in training, but maybe Carlo's thinking it's not like I've got Messi on the bench to come on or Ronaldo. I've got a young lad who's still got a lot of improving to do. Maybe I can say to him, right, okay, just sit. And I don't know, it is a wild conspiracy, but it's just something that I heard somebody say a few months back, and I thought, you know what? Maybe that's something that is going through the minds of everybody at the football club. Financial fair play will be coming back round to bite everyone on the arse next summer. We need to sell. We want to invest. Maybe Carlos said to the club, listen, I'm not going to name a name out there because everyone will then go, oh, Cameron said that we might sign him. Maybe Carlos there with Marcel Brand saying, I've got this lad, shit up, managed him before, CR7, I'm only messing, don't say I'm only messing. I've got this lad, brilliant player, wants to come in, but he's going to cost this amount of money. And the club have gone, well, we need to realistically sell some players before we get that. We don't want to sell Richarlison or Dean because that'll cause uproar. We need to start getting rid of the players. I don't know, it's a mad theory, and a lot of people will say, oh, it doesn't make sense, but
well, if that was true, why didn't he put Balassi in the team squad and leave Gordon out of it then if he's not going to play?
Well, that's it. Again, there's holes to pick in everything. There's holes to pick in that. There's holes to pick. But I suppose to wrap it up then, mate, why ultimately do you believe that Carlo didn't include Nkounkou in the weekend? Let's say, let's sort of give the benefit of the doubt about Nkounkou because we don't know if he was fit. We don't know if he was injured. That hasn't been confirmed. Anthony Gordon, 3 games, 3 opportunities, could have played in the under-23, so clearly injury-free and fit. What do you think is the most realistic reason as to why Carlo Ancelotti didn't include them or really included them in those games?
Oh no, Cam. I wish I knew the answer, mate, but all I can do is speculate. I'm gonna, like I said before, it's gotta be he just doesn't think he's ready. But that contradicts myself. So why did he throw him in the derby last season then if he's not ready?
Yeah.
Maybe that's because he knew we had nothing to play for and it was coming to the end of the season. That might play a part in it. Yeah. But that's the only thing I can think of. He just doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust the youngsters at the minute.
Yeah.
The point you brought up, I don't know if I'm going to look that far into it, but it is a good point.
Yeah. Well, spot on. I agree. I think that's the point I brought up. I think one of those conspiracies that you sit down and go, oh, I'll dig me teeth into that. But no, I think it is. I think it's more of a case of either protecting the players or just doesn't think they're ready yet. Whamey says, I don't agree with not ready in the sense that if he was playing an option that was better, but I'd rather a not ready Gordon or Nkounkou gaining experience over the Wobby being useless. Well, again, like George said, we haven't got a clue. I don't know. I'd have to sit down with Carlo and say, explain please, because I don't think anybody knows really. Teddy says it's not easy, but for me, I'm looking at this as a transitional season. Still a lot of players to recycle out the squad, and young players just finding their feet. Short-term thinking is our enemy. Spot on. And it's still a long way to go, by the way. We're only, 11, 12 games into the season. There's still a Carabao Cup quarter-final. There's still an FA Cup game against Rochdale. Is it that who did we pull yesterday? Was it Rochdale? I think it was Rochdale. Somebody will let me know in the comments. We got drawn against somebody, or Doncaster it might have been actually. Rotherham, that's it, Rotherham. There's still a game against Rotherham in the FA Cup. There's still a long way to go in the Premier League. We're coming into a December period where we play every 10 minutes, so there's still a big chance for Anthony Gordon. Look, if we're sitting here, myself and Jordan, in January, and Anthony Gordon hasn't featured in any of the December fixtures, then I honestly think we'll just scratch our heads at it and go, you know what, we don't know. But there's a very busy period.
Just said there, it's all a process. He's right. But if it's all a process and Gordon's going to be for the future, why not give him some experience then if we're just in a process period?
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's it. And that's where the the shout comes in of, if it is a process and he is for the future and he's not going to play, get him out on loan. And then
well, even if you just bring him on for 10 minutes, if you can't loan him at the minute, if you just bring him on for 10, 15 minutes now and again, if it's a process, then why not just do it?
No, I agree.
And loan him out.
I agree, mate. I agree. Listen, ultimately, nobody's got a clue. Nobody's got a clue why they're not playing. They should be playing because, like you said, you're not getting Messi-like bloody stats and outcomes from the players that are playing instead of them. And I'd rather have a young lad with inexperience, yes, but raw ambition and raw talent and wanting to impress than somebody who you know what you're going to get from. But the reason as to why they're not playing, I don't know. If you're enjoying the live stream, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you're new. Only does take a second. Moving on then. Oh, go on.
Just quickly, he might have just fell out with him, mate, because he did say he was knocking on his door and everything. He might have just fell out with him and just said, "I'll show you." Yeah. We don't know, do we?
Yeah, you don't know. Ultimately, you don't know. And again,
I'm going to make a lad's comment out then. Sorry, he's probably fuming. I answered up.
No, we were going to move on to VAR, but no, I agree. Again, it's difficult, isn't it? And look, the team spirit seems sound at the club. Now, obviously, you don't see the team spirit from every player. You don't speak to every player, so you don't know. But I don't know. Really, I don't know. Ultimately. Anyway, moving on to VAR, then we will get into the live comments in a little bit. But moving on to VAR, it's a subject that I know Joe wanted to talk on, and you know, I think I've got a couple of opinions on as well. Again, it's you know, in the media, it's in the news every single week. People are talking about it. Ultimately, it's continuing to make stupid decisions week in, week out, the latest of which being an offside that was given against Ollie Watkins in the game between Villa and West Ham yesterday, where he was basically ragged around the neck, and due to that, he was in an offside position. He then scored, and he was claimed offside, and he wasn't given a penalty against him. Like I said, I'd done that video a year ago, mate, and literally nothing's changed. It's still a shambles, isn't it? My point of view on this, and I will go to you, because I understand that. You're obviously we're going to talk about it. My point of view on this is we need to walk away from blaming VAR, as in this smokescreen of VAR. VAR's this, VAR's that, VAR is a camera. I could sit here and get my phone out now and film Jordan, and Jordan could go and pick out one of his many fantastic Blu-rays behind him that you can watch and review and talk about on his channel down in the description. Go over and sub. He could pick out one of his many Blu-rays behind him, and I could say, I don't know what finger he touched that Blu-ray with first, whether it's his thumb or his index finger. I look on the camera, it's clearly his index finger, and I say it's his thumb, and then everyone goes, oh, that's VAR. But it's not, is it really? VAR is just my phone who's shown me the video at a different angle in slow-mo. I'm the idiot making the decision who's got it wrong. And I think that's where we need to focus on, is the officials. VAR is video assistant referee. There's always a human being behind that screen who's drawing those lines, who one week will draw the line from the shoulder, the next week it'll be from the ankle, the next week it'll be from the foot, who's making those decisions. I think it would be a lot better if on the screen it didn't come up VAR checking, it come up VAR official Anthony Taylor checking, VAR official Michael Oliver checking. So then when that decision happens, you go, how has Michael Oliver made that decision? How has Anthony Taylor made that decision? But I honestly think VAR is an issue to do with the level of officiating in the Premier League, which for me, in my opinion, is utterly atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. And part and parcel of the reason is because referees are indestructible. You can't say anything to them. You can't question them. You can't ask them. For me, referees should be made to do an interview after every game and explain some of the decisions that they did. Carlo Ancelotti went over at the end of Everton's Premier League game against Manchester United, the Goodison, the last game we were allowed into, and simply asked for an explanation from Chris Kavanagh about the goal that was given or wasn't given at the end of the game. Chris Kavanagh sent him off. You can't say a word to referees in this day and age, and that is the issue for me. It's not the technology, because it works in every other country, it works in multiple other sports. It's the people managing the technology, it's the people looking at those videos and deciding what's a foul, what's not a foul. It's also the rule book that ultimately is at fault. The offside rule is ridiculous at the moment. The handball rule, some would say, is ridiculous. So for me, the people that to blame and to look at are whoever the official is on that night who's given that ridiculous decision and the rule book. But referees will be quite happy to pull that green screen up and go, it's VAR, have a go with VAR. Don't look at me, who made the decision. Have a go with this system that ultimately is just a camera with slow-mo on it that people can look at. But that's my opinion on it. Like I said, my opinion hasn't changed in the 12 months when there was issues last time. What are your thoughts on VAR, mate, as a whole, I suppose, and the fact that we're still seeing stupid decisions being made constantly? It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, your opinion hasn't changed on it, but mine changes all the time, and I'm sort of at the point now where I just don't even want it. I wanted them to improve it because I think just brought too many rules in straight away for the start, and just started, instead of just doing little baby steps with it, they just thought they knew the technology straight away and they could just make all these rules up because they've got this new technology. I just thought they should have done it a little bit more simpler at first, but I just think the game's getting ruined, mate, in all honesty. Even when we, look, it was probably a penalty, but when we beat Palace, I was like, would we have won that game if, I don't know, it was just, was it a ball to hand? I don't know. But that Rodriguez goal the other day, perfectly good goals are getting taken away. Now, when you say these lines are getting drawn, I went on the match reaction after it, and I was saying, we got given offside for his arm, because that's what it looked like to me when this fella drew the line on. But a lot of people said it was something totally different, but a lot of people were also agreeing with me. So I don't even know where they're drawing these lines half the time, mate. What are they drawing? That Mane goal against us, I went, that is definitely, that's just going to get given now, or we've lost. And next minute, he gave it offside. I was like, where's he looking, mate? Yeah. And it was the same with the Rodriguez one. I just don't know what they're looking at. And it is part of the officials. And they've always been terrible in this league. That's why none of them went to the World Cup a few years ago. Yeah. They've always been terrible. But I just hate this game getting slowed down all the time, mate. And I'm just fed up of it now, and I'd rather just not have it at all, in all honesty. Yeah. Someone put a tweet up before. I forgot the lad's name. I'm really sorry, but I wish I could credit him. And he said, who remembers when you scored a goal and you just had a quick look at the linesman and carried on celebrating? That just seems so long ago. But I think I prefer it. I think I prefer the best bad out the other bad, if you get me.
It's the better the devil you know, innit?
Yeah. And I don't know if they need to change the rules or just get better personnel in, but half of them are telling the ref to go and look at the screen themselves now because they don't want to make decisions. So.
That's it. And the big thing with VAR, or a video assistant refereeing, is that it works. It works in Germany and it works dead quick. They look at it and they go, that's a decision dead quick. In this league, it seems like a blatant handball is looked at for 3.5 minutes. How? If the rule is, if it strikes your arm, it's a handball, you only have to see it once and it's given, there you go, quick. But they don't quicken it up.
Like rule.
You know what? It's a radical rule, the handball one, but I would be happy to have the handball rule changed if we got rid of the officials in this league and brought in better officials. I think as soon as you start giving officials the opportunity to determine what they believe is a handball and what they believe isn't, that's when certain teams start getting handball penalties and others don't. That's when certain teams start being told, yeah, that's a handball, and others get told, no, don't be stupid. And you know who I'm talking about when I'm talking about those certain teams. Is it very radical? Yeah. And you're right, we got one against Palace that I thought, that's very unlucky. And we'll get one against us. With Evertonians, we'll get probably more than one against us before the end of the season where you're thinking, oh my God, that's ridiculous. The Liverpool situation, I was made up. I was jumping up and down. Sat down the day after and I thought, you know what? That's a bit silly, that, because how is he offside? Where's the offside? Don't get me wrong, I wasn't complaining, obviously, but I honestly, the rule book is ridiculous. The offside rule is ridiculous because, for me, like you said, they're drawing the line from arms when you can't even score from your arm, but your foot's onside, but your arm's offside, or your sleeve might be offside. And, well, that's just ridiculous. Draw it from a certain point. I know there's a rule in a different country which states that they draw like a 5mm or 5mm line, I think it is, or centimetre line, whatever, and they draw one from the attacking player and one from the defending player, and if those two lines touch, then it's a goal, it's fine. If they don't touch, it's not fine, which means you can...
Give the benefit of the doubt to the striker, is that what you mean?
Yeah, so basically if
like it used to be.
Yeah, so basically you can be a little bit ahead of the defender as long as those lines cross, rather than having a perfect straight minimal line that, let's be honest, you're sitting there thinking, I don't really know what I'm looking at here. And if we're all sitting there thinking, I don't really know what I'm looking at, then those referees behind the screen, let's not be fooled that they're clever and they know how to work the system. They're not. They're sitting there going, don't really know what we're looking at here, so let's just give something and then hope that it's the right decision, or hope that we don't upset a lot of people. For me, I just think it's a flawed system that I think if they get rid of, will just exploit referees even more so, and I don't think they are going to get rid of it because it's a smokescreen for referees. If they get rid of VAR, ultimately linesmen start becoming questionable. If they don't put the flag up on blatant offside decisions, referees do for penalties, other situations. So for me, it's a smokescreen for those officials to sit behind and go, everyone blame VAR because that was VAR that made that decision. It wasn't. It was Anthony Taylor who's sitting behind the screen in Stockley Park who made the decision. VAR just had the picture up or the video up and you all looked at it, and then Anthony Taylor thought that's not a penalty. But then Anthony Taylor won't be brought into question because it's just VAR, and he'll go home and probably search through Twitter and go, oh, everyone's having a go at VAR here. When if he's made a bad decision, it should be, how has Anthony Taylor made that? It's just an example, by the way. How has Anthony Taylor made that decision? How has Michael Oliver made that decision? But again, it falls under this referees being far too protective for me. If a referee makes a shocking decision, they should be put in front of a media camera and said, explain that. Explain why you done that. Because managers are...
I have a lot more respect if they just came out and said, yeah, I got that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And human error is part of the game. It is part of the game, and again, I much prefer when you looked over to the linesman and, it was the flag was down and it was given a goal. Ultimately, if it goes for your team, then you're made up. Even if it is offside, you're made up. If it goes against your team, you're not made up. That's football. But I do think that you're now getting some pundits who are complaining about the right decisions, but the offside rule is ridiculous. Even in that situation, VAR's been in, and multiple occasions, by the way, we've seen VAR make decisions and then within 2 days come out and say, oh, that was the wrong decision. We had it, one of the first times it happened was against Brighton last season. Michael Keane gave away a penalty. VAR come out 2 weeks later and said that was never a penalty. There was a game... That's
the worst VAR decision I've seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Easily.
Exactly that. For me, it's that or the Dele Alli handball one, which he literally jumps up and catches it against Spurs away. They spend 3.5 minutes and he don't give it. But there was one. Sorry, I remember it. I can't remember which game it was in. I'm sure it involved Tottenham. It might have involved Tottenham and Chelsea. I don't know. But it was one where VAR gave a decision or didn't give a decision. And then literally 20 minutes later, as the game was still being played, Stockley Park come out and said that was the wrong decision. As the game is still being played. How can they make that decision in 20 minutes, but he can't make it there and then? Works in Germany, it's done dead quick. Score a goal, and, by the time you've looked over to the linesman, yeah, it's fine. Sound. Maybe a couple of seconds later, sound. Not this league where goes to VAR and you may as well go out and make yourself a cup of tea because you'll still be there 2.5 minutes later, and then you see the replay as a fan and you go, what's going on? It's a blatant handball or it's a blatant penalty, or the offside one again is ridiculous for me. But I honestly do think it stems from the officials. I think we need better officials in this country, and I think all this VAR's done is redirected the blame from those officials to a system now that everyone can sort of pack into. It's VAR, because it's easier to type it's VAR rather than go on and look at and go, who was the referee in that game? Oh, it's Anthony Taylor. Oh, Anthony Taylor, because it's easy to just go VAR. Williams says, Narcam, I think you're rose-tinted how terrible some of our offsides decisions were. I saw at least 2 where the attacker was in his own half. You're right, the officials are the problem. No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing. It's not rose-tinted. I agree. The offside rule is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But especially with the handball rule, I I don't know. Maybe I'm just being me, and again a little bit of a conspiracist. But I do think certain officials give certain decisions to certain sides, and I think as soon as you start giving officials that leeway, that's when certain teams get Listen, look at the stats, mate. Everton had 1 Premier League penalty. I think it was 1, maybe 2 Premier League penalties last season. Manchester United had 20, on average of 1 every other game. They were getting a penalty near enough every time they needed to score. Now, are you telling me that in every Everton game we weren't put in situations where we could receive penalties for the same situation as Man United games? Utter nonsense. And that was with VAR. That was last season. So, I don't know. Ultimately, again, I get your point, and I agree. I think it's a flawed system, and I would like us to return to football where you just didn't have to look at the goal against Man United, for example. We had Goodison in that game. Yeah.
My heart was ripped out of my chest.
Yeah, exactly. We'd scored in the last minute against Man United at Goodison. I think we were on course to have a relatively decent end to the season at that point. Again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, last minute, gets disallowed. And then you watch that afterwards and you think, what's going on there then? So,
man, you got a decision the other week. I think it was against Brighton after the final whistle.
Yeah. They got a penalty, didn't they? They got a penalty after the final whistle. What a nonsense.
To be honest, Cam, you can say before this VAR came in, they come for you and they go for you, but they still come and go for you on VAR. I don't want to be not being able to celebrate goals for the rest of the time that I watch football. I'm just fed up. Like you said there, you might as well go and make a cup of tea. The amount of times I've walked out that living room and a VAR decision's about to go against us, I'm just like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
Because it's taking the fun out of the game for me, and I'd rather just glimpse at the linesman. I really would. I just don't want it no more. I'm just fed up of it. Even if they improve it, just checking every single goal, and there's always that doubt every time you score. And
it is. It's
taking
the emotion away. And it's even worse in the ground, by the way, because on the telly, they're checking the goal, but almost instantly you're seeing the replay, and then you can see, right, that's offside, that's not offside. In the ground, just gets VAR checking, and you don't know. You don't know until it doesn't show the replay. You don't know whether it's it's a goal or it's offside or whatever. It is. I think human error is better than a flawed system, but I just wanted to say, in my opinion, this system can work. It absolutely can work. It works in other sports. It works in other leagues. It works fine in other leagues. I do think the deeper issue is the level of officiating in this league, because the computer doesn't draw.
It is a big problem.
It is, yeah. The computer doesn't draw the lines. Ultimately, someone puts them in there. Someone decides whether you're drawing it from the arm or the leg or the balls or the head. So ultimately, again, I agree. I think it's a flawed system, and I'd rather not see it implemented, because then, again, you're waiting 10 minutes to celebrate a goal, and you're always hesitant, and every time, there's been about 3 times in the last week, mate, where my heart's been in my arse, because I think there was one against Leeds, where it was 0-0, where it hit Iwobi's hand, and I just thought, he's given that. That's given his handball, it's hit his hand, and then it... And I think it was one against Fulham as well, week before, where I think it hit someone else's hand, Doucouré, I think it was, and you're thinking, I'd give that. It was 3-2, we're just about to win the game, and he's giving it. And he didn't give it, and again, this isn't just a bias Everton, this will go against Everton, it's gone against other teams. I absolutely hate them across the park, but some of the decisions they've had go against them, I sit there and I think, that is harsh. If that was against Everton, I'd be gutted. But then some of the decisions that go for certain teams, you think, how was that happen? The one yesterday in the Villa West Ham game was a nonsense for me, and utter nonsense, and that's part of the rule book, and that's part of the problem ultimately. How you can find he was offside, but look at the reason why he's offside. Is he offside because he's made an early run? No, he's offside because the lad's got 2 arms behind him and he's basically tackled him to the floor. How is it not a penalty? Look at the one against, was it Everton against Southampton?
I've got a controversial opinion on that decision yesterday.
Go on.
Ugh. The only thing I'd say is he grabs him, but if you slow that down, it is 10 times worse than what it was. Yeah. Now, he grabs him for about half a second, mate. A second at that.
Well, that's always the case, isn't it?
When Carragher slowed it down, I only seen it on Twitter. I didn't watch the full game, but I seen it on Twitter. Carragher slowed it down, and it looked like, yeah, okay, sound.
Yeah.
Then he sped it up. I didn't think there was much wrong with it. He grabs him for half a second, if that.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that's another big part of the problem, isn't it, mate? Is when you slow everything down, it looks a lot worse. Tackles look a lot worse. fouls look a lot worse, decisions look a lot worse, and I don't know. And that's why ultimately, if you're going to have VAR and you're going to say, okay, we're going to slow everything down to ultra speed, you can't sit there and say, and take into consideration the fact that it's slowed down on one occasion and then not on another. And that's where the offside rule comes for me, is because they slow it down, they freeze it, and a player is, let's be honest, onside. They're onside, but because their toe might be off, then that's being given against them. How are players meant to make really clever runs in that situation? How? It doesn't make...
About the other week, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, the player put his arm out to say pass it there and give him offside for his arm.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the game was. It was West Brom or someone. It might have been Villa actually. Just put his arm out and said, yeah, I played the ball there, and he's put it offside because his arm's stiffing out. So what do you want him to do? Not tell him where to put the ball?
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Listen, it's mad. Well, I suppose we'll just to summarise it then before we get in the live comments, before we finish up. VAR, you completely VAR out, get it out, get gone.
At this moment in time, mate, yeah, because they need to drastically improve it otherwise.
Yeah.
But at this minute, I'm just not really. It's not even because we're playing bad. I mean, I can't seem to enjoy our games at times. I mean, it was great. We score and it goes. You just hear the commentator every time, and they are VAR checking it, and I'm like, you know what I mean? It's just I can't seem to enjoy it. I'm more nervous now because of this than I ever was in watching football.
Yeah, and that's saying something being an Everton fan, by the way. That is saying something being an Everton fan. No, I agree. I do. It's very flawed, and the whole goal celebration thing is ridiculous. And I think the commentators think, well, it's going to go to VAR. Listen, if a commentator's seen that, there's no need for them to say it's going to go to VAR. They can say, I've just watched that there live. Miles on side, you'll be sound. Again, and there's an argument there to say it brings entertainment, it brings controversy, and when there's controversy and when there's entertainment, more people are involved, more eyes are watching, there's more people talking about it. And you know what they say, mate? Any press, even bad press is good press. Any press is good press. And again, I think for a football fan, it's bollocks. It's utter nonsense, and it doesn't work. From a media point of view,
I don't know how anyone, after this long now, can find VAR decisions and say, okay, thing on day every week VAR. It's just, I'm just fed up.
I am as well, to be honest. I am as well, but I do think it lies in a deeper issue. I'm fed up. I'm not pro VAR, by the way. I'm fed up. I think it's a nonsense. I think it's a joke. But I wouldn't want VAR to go and then it'd just be like, oh, VAR was shite, wasn't it? I want to get to the deeper issue, which I think is the level of officiating in this country. Yeah, ultimately, there you go. Well, let's get into the live comments then before we finish up. Wayne says, could argue the other way in real time. Maybe you don't see the foul. If you're grabbing a shirt to stop the player, why they're grabbing shirts with the offside for pointing is a joke. Fair enough. Cosling says, I'm worried at the lack of playtime. We may lose on Gordon and Nkounkou. I don't know what it is, but the players do better. Want them to leave Everton and go out on loan, check Walcott, Luckman, Class and Vlasic. Well, again, they haven't really done better. Jem says, good point, Cam. We do miss some, we get some, but I know I do, but realistically, overall, we don't get much when the pressure is on and the league positions are up for grabs. We never have. We never, VAR or not, we never have. Jem says, correct, Spurs, Chelsea, Man United and Arsenal too, but those first three got a lot of decisions going their way. Why they not speak its name? Graham says, VAR has been brought in to help the teams. They want to do well. As for the offside rule, for me, it should go by your foot. It's football, and then we know where we stand. William says, I think they should just put Sakas in their bras with their heart monitors. Then it's even. It's just either your Sakas off or it isn't. Your heart's off, man. Imagine your heart being off. So let's face it, the FA and referees are the issue. I'm screaming out for VAR, not the FA, and refs using it to their own interpretation. And Wayne says, don't need managers and playing players to teach them a lesson at the cost of the team, especially when we side with Gordon. Why isn't he getting game time? Obviously talking about Gordon here. Well, again, nobody knows. If you know why Anthony Gordon isn't starting for Everton, please let me know in the comments. Let us know, because I really don't know. I'd love to know the reason, but ultimately we're probably never going to find out.
Do you reckon he's not good enough?
It's
Because you just reminded me there, someone brought Lookman up, and it's like, no, Michael
yeah.
Silva wouldn't play him, and obviously didn't think he was good
Well, that's it.
enough.
Well, it's the
And
harsh truth that everyone will go, oh, you can't say
I
that.
always thought he was
But
good enough.
I agree, mate.
I always thought Lookman was good enough, to be honest. But like you said, they watched them every week, didn't they? So
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Well, we're going to have to finish up the live stream there. Then, if you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Really, really do appreciate it. Do subscribe to the channel as well. Massive thanks to Jordan, as usual, for coming on and joining us. Jordan, have you got anything to say before we finish up, mate?
just let's just hope we beat bloody Burnley, and we can talk about something positive next time.
That's it. That's it. That's
Play
it. Play
Gordon.
Anthony Gordon. Big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Really, really do appreciate it. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. There we go. There we go.